Do you think that you're intuitive? Because I thought that I was. I thought that I had a really good handle on what was good for me and what was not good for me. And one day, my dad sat me down to have the talk, which was not the birds and the bees, fortunately, because I was 37 years old at the time, but it was to have the superannuation talk, the retirement fund talk. Because at the time I worked for myself and I was not obligated to put money aside for retirement. That's the laws in Australia. So Dad very bravely and gently sat me down and said, "What do you think about superannuation? I think you should start putting money aside." And I just shut it down. I was like, "No, that's not right for me. I can't do that right now." Looking back, it's very obvious that I was extremely triggered at the time. I felt under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. I was terrible with money. So this question really set me off, and retirement just felt so far away. So from my reaction, Dad just kind of said, "Okay then," and let me go. A couple of years later, I did get with the program and started putting money into superannuation. And yes, I do regret not starting that earlier. And I love to listen to the Odd Financial podcast. And whenever they talk about investing, I'm always like, why didn't I start earlier? But when you know better, you do better. But anyway, the point is, if that conversation happened today, I would stop and ask myself, why am I so triggered right now? What am I actually feeling? Like, what's underneath this? And this got me thinking about how we often mistake fear or conditioning for intuition. Because at the time, I really believed I was following my inner guidance system, like this feels right or this feels wrong, and finding extra money to put into super just felt wrong. If I felt something strongly enough, I just assumed that it was intuition. But recently, I came across a Carl Jung quote that really spoke to me, and I'm paraphrasing it here, but he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." I read that quote and I thought, holy moly, how many times have I thought something was intuition or fate or God or source or the universe, signs following signs, but it was actually faulty patterns and programming that I hadn't looked at. We hear a lot about following our gut, trusting our intuition and listening to our inner guidance. Your body knows. And I do believe that we have access to deep wisdom. But I also believe that some of what we call intuition is also old beliefs, old fears, old identity, old conditioning, old faulty patterns and programming, especially if we're not interested in our inner life beyond that first layer of feeling. We could also talk about relationships. How many times have you dated someone and then dated someone else and thought, oh my gosh, they're the same person in a different body? Or how often do you say, oh, that's my type, or they're not my type? Or have you ever dated someone and then realized they're exactly like your mother or your father? That is definitely programming and patterning. Incidentally, my boyfriend's mother and I have the same name. Coincidence? I don't know. So how do we tell the difference between true intuition and unconscious programming and patterning? I don't claim to be an expert on this, but I'm just starting the conversation and sharing my experience. So for me, true intuition doesn't necessarily feel good, and it doesn't feel defensive or urgent. There's a steadiness to it. And if it's from conditioning and not my intuition, it usually feels urgent or defensive or reactive, emotional, protective, or very familiar and very good. Sometimes it can feel like, yes, this is the right thing because it's familiar. And sometimes our intuition will guide us to do something we haven't done before, which is unfamiliar, which can feel scary and therefore can trigger these reactions, these defensiveness. So we think, oh gosh, that's not the right thing. But that's not the first response. There's the first response, the first feeling of steadiness or just knowingness. And then after that comes the defensiveness. So something can be intuitive and the right move. And at first, it feels steady and calm and it feels right. And then once my ego gets involved and realizes it means doing something different or changing or being out of my comfort zone, that's when the defensiveness can come in and being triggered and emotional. But the initial feeling was like, yes, that's it. I actually remember a few years ago, like, I don't know, 15 years ago, and I had a different boyfriend to what I have now, and he broke up with me. And I remember when he broke up with me, instantly I was like, oh, thank God, thank God. And I felt this big expansion. And then just moments later, all the fear came in, and the panic and the abandonment and all the wounding. But I never forgot that initial feeling, and that really guided me through the breakup. This is the right thing. So if you're not sure if something is intuitive or from conditioning, there are some questions that you can ask yourself. Do I feel expanded or constricted? Am I protecting something? Is this familiar or is this new? Would my future self thank me? Would my inner child thank me? These questions can start that inner work, that self-inquiry. For me, if I'm in overwhelm, I know that there's no way I'm going to make the right decision or a good decision. So I very much have to settle myself, get calm, get present, get grounded, and then feel into it. And the thing is, sometimes we can be paralyzed by worrying about making the wrong decision, but not making a decision is still a decision. It's still a choice. And whatever decision we make, there's always a higher choice. There's always a better choice we could have made, but we're just doing the best that we can with what's available to us at that time. And whatever choice we make then becomes the choice, because once the choice is made, all those other potentials and possibilities and timelines are cut off, and then we go with that. And the thing is, it's all about learning. We're here to learn, grow, and evolve. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, we do the best we can, but we're going to learn the lesson eventually. So the thing is, we can want to throw our hands up and be like, I don't know, but just keep asking to be shown, asking for the truth, and really wanting the truth, no matter what the truth is, which can be tricky sometimes, but that's the journey. Keep being curious about our feelings and not overriding them. And I can be guilty of this sometimes when I get a hit. When I say a hit, like an emotional response or feelings, when I'm in the middle of something or in an interaction and I clock it and I'm like, oh, what was that? Sometimes I might want to put it to the side and be like, I'll deal with that later. But the moment's passed. And yes, sometimes, you can go and review and still work on it, but in that moment is always the best time. So if we have big feelings and then we think, oh, I'll deal with that later, we can really miss a great opportunity. We all have unconscious parts to us. It's really good to question our thoughts. Actually, Byron Katie has these 4 questions that she calls the work, which is really fantastic. Her first question is that true? Can I be sure that it's true? How do I react, or who do I believe myself to be when I believe that thought? And lastly, who would I be without the thought? So when following our guidance, our intuition, sometimes we can make mistakes, and there's always a higher choice, but we just keep going. It takes as long as it takes, and we are wherever we are. I'm still deeply in this process of figuring it out. I've got plenty of patterns that I haven't uncovered yet, and blind spots for sure. And that's all part of it. The more present we are, the more conscious we become, and the more we can access true wisdom instead of old programming. I heard someone say recently that authenticity is presence, and I really love that. You can't be authentic without being present. Otherwise, we're just running a program. If you're on a journey to become more self-aware and to challenge these old programs and patternings and challenge your narratives and stories that you have about yourself and your life, and you'd like to achieve one big goal or transformation, you may be interested in a group coaching program that I'm co-facilitating with my sister, Cathy. I wanted to introduce you to my colleague and sister, Cathy.
Hello.
Cathy and I have created a group coaching program called the Aligned Success Lab.
We are excited about being able to facilitate this program. A lot of it is grounded in the knowledge of personal experience, and we recognize that we are unique, you are unique, and so we're not boxing you into a particular framework. We have a framework, but you were not boxed in. This is going to be nuanced to support you as an individual, as a unique human being.
Very much tailored to you. We've got lots of surprises in store. We're so excited about this. We do hope you'll check us out. There's a link in the description if you're interested. Get in touch if you'd like more information. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments. Do you feel like you're intuitive? How do you make decisions? If this video resonated with you, please like, subscribe and share, and come over to Instagram and say hi, and be sure to put the notification bell on so you don't miss a video. Much love, guys.